In the rush of the modern age, dams were kings. They tamed wild rivers, quenched the thirst of growing cities, and powered the machines of progress, turning untamed waters into the lifeblood of industry and expansion. Without these concrete giants holding back the flood, none of it would have been possible. But every wall came at a price, paid in the lives of those who lived in their shadow. Where the water itself could turn traitor, where a single crack or a moment of overwhelming force could turn the valley into an inland sea. Tonight, we descend into three of history's most devastating dam disasters: Vajont, Johnstown, and St. Francis, where the hunger for control invited catastrophe and the waters claimed their due. On a quiet night on October 9, 1963, in Italy's Vajont Valley, disaster struck as a wave taller than the dam itself vaulted over its crest. Not because the dam failed, but because the mountain beside it collapsed. This is the story of the Vajont Dam, a feat of engineering brilliance, undone by the arrogance of ignoring nature. In the 1950s, Italy was rebuilding. Hydroelectric power meant progress, and the Vajont Dam, rising 262 meters above the valley above Erto e Casso, was one of the tallest in the world. Built by the private company SADE, it promised cheap, clean energy for generations. But even before the last concrete was poured, locals noticed something strange. The slopes of Monte Toc, the mountain above the reservoir, were moving. Geologists and villagers reported small landslides, cracks, even tremors. Tests showed the mountain was unstable, resting on a layer of clay that could slip. But instead of halting the project, engineers adjusted, cycling water levels, claiming to stabilize the slide. It didn't. By 1963, the signs were undeniable. The mountain was shifting faster, the reservoir filling higher. Then, on October 9, 1963, at 10:39 p.m., disaster struck. A section of Monte Toc, about 260 million cubic meters of rock and debris, broke free and plunged into the reservoir at 110 kilometers per hour. The impact displaced an enormous wave. In just seconds, it surged 250 meters above the dam, spilling over its crest and down into the valley. Within minutes, the towns of Longarone, Pirago, Rivalta, Villanova, and Faye were gone. 1,917 lives lost. The dam itself stood almost unscathed, a haunting monument to human achievement and fatal error. Later investigations laid it bare. Profit, pride, and politics had overruled science. Today, the Vajont Dam stands silent. The empty reservoir, the scarred mountain, reminders of what happens when we build without listening to the land beneath us. The Vajont tragedy wasn't a natural disaster, it was a human one. May 31st, 1889. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. 14 miles upstream, unnoticed cracks were spreading through an aging dam weakened by days of relentless downpour. Though warnings had reached the town earlier that day, they were dismissed as yet another false alarm. Then the South Fork Dam gave way, and everything changed forever. For years, the South Fork Dam had held back the waters of Lake Conemaugh. Originally built for the state's canal system, the aging structure had been quietly acquired and repurposed by the exclusive South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club, a private mountain retreat for Pittsburgh's wealthiest industrialists. The dam had been hastily repaired after years of neglect, its crest lowered to widen the top for carriage roads, and grates added across the spillway to keep the club's stocked fish from escaping, grates that now clogged with storm debris. Critical discharge pipes, removed long before, were never replaced, leaving no way to lower the lake. During days of relentless rain, the waters of Lake Conemaugh rose higher and higher. Down in Johnstown, workers remained at their stations amid rising local floods. Railroad crews worked to shift trains to safety. Families moved belongings upstairs, watching the rivers swell, unaware that a far deadlier force was soon on its way. At 2:50 p.m., the dam finally collapsed. 20 million tons of water exploded down the valley. A roaring wall of mud, trees, locomotives, and entire houses surged forward at nearly 40 miles per hour. Entire buildings were ripped from their foundations and smashed to pieces in the churning chaos. The flood obliterated 1,600 homes, twisted railroad tracks like wire, and left massive sections of the valley buried under debris piles reaching up to 70 feet high at the stone bridge. Fires broke out in the tangled wreckage, burning for days and trapping dozens of survivors amid the ruins. The human cost was staggering. 2,209 people killed, thousands injured, and tens of thousands left homeless. 99 entire families erased in an instant. Investigations soon uncovered the bitter truth. The disaster had been entirely preventable. The dam's original design had been fatally compromised by alterations and neglect. Inspections brushed aside, repeated warnings ignored. Yet, despite the evidence, no one was ever held legally accountable. The Johnstown flood endures as a stark warning. When negligence goes unchecked, it can unleash a torrent that buries a town and its people forever. March 12, 1928. At the St. Francis Dam in San Francisco Canyon, California, the reservoir sat quietly under the night sky, holding back billions of gallons of water meant to supply a growing Los Angeles. Then, just before midnight, the night turned deadly. In an instant, entire communities were changed forever. The St. Francis Dam was a concrete gravity arch dam, designed to hold back the water by sheer weight. It was considered safe, inspected regularly, and overseen by one of the most respected engineers in the country, William Mulholland, the same man for whom Los Angeles's iconic Mulholland Drive is named. But beneath that confidence was a fatal mistake. The dam had been increased in height twice during construction without proportionally widening its base, and it sat on unstable geological formations, including possible ancient landslide material, conditions that were misunderstood at the time. On March 12th, the dam keeper noticed a new leak and muddy wet spots along the dam's face. Mulholland himself inspected it earlier that day and declared it safe. No evacuation was ordered. The valley below remained unaware. Then, at approximately 11:57 p.m., the dam failed. The structure disintegrated, unleashing a 140-foot-high wall of water that roared down the canyon at terrifying speed, sweeping away homes, bridges, and power plants as it devastated Powerhouse No. 2, Castaic Junction, Fillmore, Bardsdale, and Santa Paula on its 54-mile race to the Pacific. The human cost was staggering. At least 431 people were killed, with thousands left homeless, making it one of the deadliest civil engineering disasters in U.S. history. The investigation revealed the collapse was caused by foundation failure from geological instability and design flaws, worsened by overconfidence and inadequate understanding of the bedrock. Mulholland accepted full responsibility, but no criminal charges were filed. The disaster ended his storied career and forever tarnished his legacy, even as his name endures on Los Angeles's iconic Mulholland Drive. The disaster permanently changed dam safety standards in the United States. The St. Francis Dam collapse remains a sobering lesson. When certainty replaces caution, even the strongest structures can fail in an instant. Unearthed hidden history. Unearthing new stories weekly. Follow or subscribe for more.